and I am committed to addressing the issues identified by the committee that remain a concern. In light of the fact that these techniques were abandoned 7 years ago, however, my fervent hope is that we can put aside this debate and move forward to focus on issues that are relevant to our current national security challenges.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are privileged to be joined once again by Alberto Gonzales, former U.S. Attorney General, former counsel to President George W. Bush, and Dean at Belmont University College of Law. Mr. Attorney General, thank you, sir.
It's good to be back with you.
Well, I appreciate that. Okay, and of course, in addition to being Attorney General from, I believe, 05 to 07, you were at the time of the John Yoo, and we just had John on yesterday for a wonderful interview. You were counsel to the president, and you were involved in this. The CIA, I think you testified in 05 that the CIA requested permission to undertake certain techniques, and it was Rumsfeld, I guess, who eventually signed off on 17 of those techniques. Am I correct?
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
Both the CIA and DOD began a process of looking at enhanced techniques beyond the Army Field Manual.
Right.
And Don Rumsfeld, because of pushback primarily from the JAGs, eventually sort of abandoned that effort with respect to DOD. With respect to the CIA, Tenet came to the National Security Council principles and basically said, this is in 2002, that we had Abu Zubaydah. We believed he had information about another imminent threat, and he wanted permission to go beyond the Army Field Manual, and that began a debate or discussion amongst, certainly between CIA and DOJ, in terms of what could the CIA do that would be consistent with the torture statute. And obviously, because I was White House counsel, I was involved in those discussions. But at the end of the day, it really is a question of what the Department of Justice, particularly the Office of Legal Counsel, says is permissible. And so the department, over the course of several years, issued 6 separate opinions with respect to these techniques, authored by 3 different lawyers, and of course supported by 3 different attorneys general, and all saying that if these enhanced techniques were conducted a certain way, with specific safeguards provided for in the opinions, then the CIA actions would be consistent, not in violation of the torture statute. Now, we knew this would nonetheless be controversial whenever they become public, and everyone, you work in government, you understand fully that at some point it's all going to become public. Everything that you do, everything that you write is going to become public. And fortunately, we worked with a group of individuals that manned up. They understood that, and nonetheless, they did their job and doing their very best in providing legal advice. The lawyers did, and lawyers are paid to disagree, and so I have no problem with lawyers criticizing other lawyers, saying, well, how could you guys have reached that conclusion, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we did, and under the circumstances, I think it was the right decision. And so what I take offense is that people being critical of the lawyers, thinking that they facilitated torture. Quite the contrary, President Bush was clear in his directive that we would not engage in torture, and the role of the lawyers was to ensure that the conduct of the CIA was consistent with the torture statute.
And you talk about under the circumstances, and that's really the key. Because to hear the director of the CIA yesterday describe the situation, and to hear others describe the situation, taking us back to that time, even Tenet back in 07 when he gave an interview to CBS, we didn't know what was next. We had all kinds of reports of nukes in New York, buildings being threatened, and planes going to crash again. And we were trying to get, as a government, to the bottom of what was actually real and not real.
Well, we quickly realized that there was a lot we didn't know about the threat against the United States, and that the information became the most valuable currency, and we needed to get that information. But let me emphasize to your listeners that President Bush was very clear. We would not engage in torture. And so how can we gather the information consistent with the laws? And the lawyers worked hard to try to get it right. And I understand that there may be some who disagree with where the lawyers came out, but we did the very best we could. When I say we, primarily I'm talking about the Department of Justice and OOC at Justice in terms of providing specific guidelines. Now, whether or not the CIA.
Mr. Attorney General, hold it right there. We'll pick up right there
Okay.
when we come back. We're talking to former Attorney General Alberto Gonzales on Newsmax Television. Don't go away.